But listen, I'm down with the KYRIE. Why don't we talk about it on the show?
Then we shall, along with conducting the primer for your hometown team, the Toronto Raptors, Mr. Tas Melas, host of The Starters on NBA TV. This broadcast's featured guest, episode number 229, being presented by FanDuel and Bombfell. Today is Sunday, September 24th, 2017. This is Celtics Beat on the CLNS Media Network, and I'm Larry H. Russell.
To go up against Kyrie Irving, opening night, it's going to be a blast. Those two teams, how the Celtics gel with only four guys coming back. It's crazy to think that, it's only Rozier, Marcus Smart, obviously Al Horford, and Jaylen Brown. That's it. It's strange. So if anyone can make it happen, it's Brad Stevens. So, I inevitably think those are going to be the 1 and 2 teams when all is said and done. But, the Raptors are very good. The Washington Wizards are also very good. And so there'll be some storylines from those two teams as well. But, the Cavs are going to have enough storylines to fill the headlines for months. How unstable ownership is there in terms of the relationships with their front office. It's a strange scenario in Cleveland, and it seems like everybody wants to get out of there. So, it's September, and already, this stuff hasn't stopped. This is a 12-month sport.
Yeah, no, the NBA, as we said off air, the NBA has successfully squelched the offseason. You could see it. I don't know if it's good. I don't know. You can even answer it personally. I don't know if that is good for you. I know you probably would like to have like a month, even though I know when you're on TV, you got to be like, oh, yeah, this is awesome. The NBA, what a league. This is great. We got so much to talk about and everything. Thank you, Celtics, for making that big trade on August 29th for KYRIE. Thank you, KYRIE, for going on some creating.
Well, let me cut you off there because we don't have any sort of top-down instruction. Hey, you got to talk about this. There's no executive that comes in and tells our producers, hey, bump that up to the top and talk about it for at least 5 minutes. And give a promo at the end of it about the game that's coming up. We don't have that really. Obviously, we're part of a company. We're part of NBA TV / Turner Sports, which is, sort of managed by the league and Turner Sports combined. But, we talk about what we want. And of course, we love to promote everything going on at the stations. But as far as, hey, you got to do this, we're not told that. But we're fans of the game. So, we talk about KYRIE because that stuff's juicy. This guy's a 25-year-old who's said he wants out. And as Danny Ainge really, really believes that this guy is a championship level player that hasn't reached his potential. And I do agree with him. Defensively, he hasn't reached his potential, and I do think he has something to give because I've watched him in the last couple finals. When he wants to get involved, he can be involved. He was part of a Cavs team that really sort of put it in neutral a lot of the times defensively throughout the regular season. But if you remember 2015 Game 1 against Steph Curry in the finals, he had that block at the end of the fourth quarter to really preserve the game for them and send it into overtime before he got hurt. He's got that capability, and I think Brad Stevens will make him a better passer. He'll make him a more willing passer. That Celtics offense is going to move the ball around. And now they have two guys who can make plays. I think the worry was, you lose Isaiah Thomas, their one go-to scorer, but now they have two. They have two guys who can make plays and score with Gordon Hayward alongside Kyrie Irving. That just didn't happen in the Celtics offense. They relied so much on Isaiah, and that's why he bared the brunt of that offense night in and night out. Avery Bradley and Jake Crowder playing beside him just aren't those type of guys. Al Horford is capable, but he's a big. There just weren't ball handlers that can make plays. So I'm excited to see that Celtics offense. Not necessarily game 5, 10, 15. They're obviously not going to be gelling, with only 4 players returning at that point. But man, I'm really looking forward to what they can do up against the LeBron team. in the postseason, most likely when they meet. No disrespect to my hometown Toronto Raptors or Washington Wizards.
Okay, good. That's why we'll get to we definitely have to get to the Raptors. You are here for the Raptors primer. I am going to put that assignment on you. You don't have the man at Turner coming down on you saying you got to talk about this, that, and the other thing. I'm the man here on Celtics Beat. I'm going to have you talk about your specific team. But continuing on that, I actually think, and I think many others who are astute in basketball, and I just put myself in, look at that.
You're calling yourself astute?
I know I just did. I did that by mistake. Thank you. An astute opinion, generally, of the Celtics this year, 2018, would be slow start. I would like to think that is inevitable. They have X amount of new players, don't even know. Just a handful of returning players that you have referenced. Is that, am I just confirming what you just said and what many other, like you said, astute believers in basketball would be? That Boston is almost assuredly going to get off to a slow start, and it's going to be okay.
You don't see 4 returning players happen in basketball very often.
The 08 Celtics are really that is the outlier of outliers.
Right. So, and in this scenario, you're only guys who are a big part, who had a high usage rate as part of your team were Al Horford, and that's it. And then, you go to the bench and Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier, and Jaylen Brown, those 4. The interesting part to see is how much Marcus Smart becomes, a bigger part of the rotation. And Terry Rozier as well. They're really banking on those guys to step in and play a lot of minutes. Marcus Smart could have a lot of starting assignments. Sort of being that spark. Like Avery Bradley was, just to get the energy, the Celtics heartbeat up at the beginning of games. So yeah, it's entirely fine. Unfortunately, I love this game. I love this. I love this sport. I love October, November, December, and January, but it's fine to lose 5 additional games. Like if they, if they go 52-30, it's fine. It really is fine. The Cavs have proven that it just matters what you're doing in April and May, and not to put the Celtics and the Cavs class quite yet, because they're not. And I think Danny Ainge doesn't necessarily care if they're that good this season. The trade and these roster moves are not for 17-18. They're for 2018 through 2022. That's what they're thinking about. They're thinking about the Warriors dropping off and the Cavs dropping off. So, and all that being said, that's almost an underestimation of Brad Stevens and his staff and the way he coaches. So, they could surprise us and not quite 2007, 2008 Celtics get out of the gate like that. But yeah, they could win 75% of their games. No, that's way too many. They could win a good chunk of their games to start, but they shouldn't worry either way.
Yeah, I'll even throw one at you, the 2011 Heat with LeBron and Wade. That whole year, they never really developed offensively. Their offense was really the only thing they got going was just a fast break. Other than that, LeBron and Wade were playing hot potato. Remember, they started out 9-8 that year. Was what was wrong with Miami for almost, definitely the beginning of the year, almost that entire year. It never really seemed in sync. Yet they even almost ended up winning the freaking championship before. The next year, they just looked a lot more fluid on offense. Brand new team, brand new top-end talent. But I totally agree with what you just said, that it's from about 2019 to 2022. So before we shift to the Raptors, I guess I can wrap this up real quick. Tas Melas, 2 thumbs up on the Celtics offseason?
Yeah, let's say it. Yes, 2 thumbs up. I hesitated just for a quick sec. Because...
Were you hesitating because you were just counting how many thumbs you had, or were you hesitating? Okay.
Yeah, I've got a new daughter. She sucks on my thumb. She's currently sucking on my thumb, so I couldn't find it there for a second. No, I just made that whole thing up, except for the new daughter part. But I just hesitated for a quick sec because, I was part of the faction at the beginning of the offseason waiting for Danny Ainge to make a move, whether it was for Paul George or Jimmy Butler to use these assets. And so I like to remember my feelings and my emotions and not just toss them out the window and I'm accountable is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you want to remain consistent, especially with everyone on Twitter. They're watching. They watch.
That being said,
yeah, they hold you.
They don't care. They don't care. After they just want a hot take and then they move on. But that being said, I think if you have the belief, and even if you don't know, because I'm not saying they're tampering, but if you're going to get Gordon Hayward, then I think you should be fine with getting him for free and not having to exchange those assets, and then in turn being able to exchange those assets for a Kyrie Irving, who you've got 2 years instead of a Paul George 1 year. He's obviously younger than both those guys I just mentioned. He plays a different position than those guys I just mentioned. So yeah, a big A+, especially considering the state of Isaiah Thomas. I think that's the biggest factor here. And I do think the Nets are not going to be as bad as they were last year. They're a better team. And, we talk about Brad Stevens coaching, Kenny Atkinson's coaching in Brooklyn, is very, very good. They had the right style of play last year. They just couldn't finish off games. They were unhealthy. They made some moves this year. I think they're going to be far better. I don't think that pick, unless the lottery gods are with them, is not going to be a number one pick. It's going to drop into the 5 to 7 range. And then it doesn't look quite as juicy. It's not quite as juicy a package combined with Isaiah Thomas's injury. I think the deal will actually look like the Celtics won it when all is said and done in a couple of years, when Isaiah's on the other side of 30.
Rack of basketballs for Kyrie Irving. Thank you. That was what we wanted to hear. Good job. Moving to the Toronto Raptors. Now I am going to say, okay, Tas, you got to talk about this. Tas Melas, we are talking about the Toronto Raptors. You actually started this thing off. You alluded to it that I don't know if you expected the Raptors to take a step back, or you just think that Boston got significantly better and the Cavs, despite all their issues, still have LeBron James. I don't know, where do you want to start with that? I guess we can get into their offseason, but I'll get you just sort of, generally talk about the Raptors, and then we go from there, Mr. Melas.
Well, the Raps, not to say that they're going to fall back. I just think they're in that same sort of category, that same sort of window that they were last year. I think they're the third best team in the East. Going into last season, I called them the second best team in the East, but I think the Celtics have surpassed it. The Celtics made a huge free agency splash with Gordon Hayward. The Raptors did not. And then the Celtics obviously, turned over the roster a ton, but, they've got two stars like the Raptors do, but they don't play the type of basketball like the Raptors do. The Raptors rely on those two stars, while the Celtics, we know, are going to move that basketball. And that's the problem with the Raps. Even though they're going into next season with that same roster, we should expect 50 wins from them, like the last couple of years. But unfortunately, that ball is not moving around. And that's, Dwayne Casey, head coach there, went to Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan and Norman Powell, who will be a big part of the rotation this year, in the offseason. He actually met with them around the NBA Finals when the Warriors were playing the Cavs, and basically said to him, hey, we want to play like the Warriors. Can we do that next year? And that's sort of the mindset right now. He came on our show, actually, and he was very, very gracious to come on our show, because I said, maybe if they're not going to move the ball, maybe it's time to move on from Dwayne Casey. Only about 6 weeks prior to him coming on the show, he heard that. He told it to me as we were got off the set.
It's amazing. I got to interrupt you. It's amazing, because I've had the same experience as well. It's amazing how those individuals are more likely to come on the show when you actually say something like that, because they finally get that opportunity to jab you publicly in front of your audience. But he's a great guy, and I know the organization loves him, and it's nice to have stability finally with the Toronto Raptors. Have a guy in Dwayne Casey, who I think is now like the fourth longest tenured coach in the league with the Raps. It's nice to have that, because Toronto hasn't had that forever. That being said, I hope Kyle Lowry and DeMar really buy into his system. And it would really benefit Kyle Lowry on this side of 30 to do that. It would benefit the entire team. It would benefit Serge, as Dwayne Casey said. There is magic in that basketball. Let Serge touch it on the offensive end. Watch what he does on the defensive end. So that's my worry with the Raps. They decided, hey,
these guys are all coming up under free agency or into free agency. Kyle Lowry and Serge Ibaka. This past offseason, they said, we got DeMar for a few years. Are we going to just scale it back and have DeMar be our guy? That would probably make us a 30, 35 win team. If we lose Lowry and Ibaka, that's not really rebuilding. Why don't we sign Lowry and Ibaka, go after this with a 3-year window for those guys, Lowry, Ibaka, DeMar, and go from there. Masai Ujiri is comfortable blowing it up if it doesn't work out. But I agreed with the move there. I agreed to try it out another couple of years and see where this entire thing goes. But the key here is play a little more Celtics, play a little bit more Warriors basketball, because you don't have a LeBron to just take over. Although they're great isolation basketball players, over 7 games, 7 games and 12 nights, you just can't win like that. You just can't beat the best like that. It just doesn't work. So it would help everybody if they played a little bit more like that.
Tas, what happened last year? I mean, this has triggered me. I remember talking with Jack Armstrong about this at the middle point of last year when it seemed like the Raptors were just falling off a cliff. They got off to a great start offensively. You mentioned, we want to play like the Warriors, but they were playing like the Warriors at the beginning of the year offensively. They were moving the basketball. I remember when they pounded the Celtics on 2 occasions at the beginning of this season. There's no way the Celtics are ever going to catch this team. I remember that mindset being there. And then we're talking to Jack midpoint of the year. All of a sudden he just said the team just immediately lost trust in each other. And I said, middle of the season blues, it'll come back. It never really did. And here you are just saying what Jack said last year. So what happened there?
Wow. I got put in the same sentence as Jack Astute Armstrong.
That's the word of the day, astute. We were all meshing ourselves in with very astute basketball intellectual individuals.
There's something about the leadership in that locker room. It just doesn't. It's not championship level. Like they just don't have. They don't have it all. I think there's something. The tangibles in basketball that we all talk about. Are fun to talk about because we can't really talk about those intangibles that we just don't know about. Isaiah Thomas, the original Isaiah Thomas, has said before, the secret is basketball is not about basketball. It's about, the sacrifice and playing for each other and doing the little things that the Ubuntu Celtics did for each other. That's something that the Raptors locker room just doesn't have. And you can get by playing, hey, DeMar, pot 30 tonight in November. No problem. Pot 30 on a night in December. Pot 30 in a night in January. But it catches up to you. And I think it's shown through Kyle Lowry, in the postseason, and DeMar at times in the postseason. They just put too much pressure on themselves. And that type of basketball just doesn't win these days. I think that's the situation.
Episode number 229, a Celtics Beat with Tas Melas, is being presented by Bombfell. I talked about Bombfell last week, and if you want to check out the Celtics Beat archives on iTunes, Stitcher, and the CLNS Media Network mobile app, please do. But I can tell you about Bombfell right here, right now, by asking this simple question: do you hate shopping for clothes? Well, Bombfell is an easier way for men to get better clothes. Bombfell never charges above retail price. They offer free shipping and returns, convenient home try-on, and the ability to preview and edit your stylist's picks before your order ships. These guys got you in total control. You sign up, set up and schedule your order, get a preview email, and of course change what you don't want if you don't like it. Then they ship it to you, and you have 7 days to try on what you want before they charge your credit card, and you keep what you want to keep and ship back what you don't want. How convenient is that? There's just so much I love about Bombfell, from the stylistic and fit material for me, and just how easy this service I have found it to use. Free shipping and returns, and as I said last week, I love their mantra. I just can't stress this enough, and it's why I love them. Bombfell doesn't make money if you don't find something you want to keep. So thanks to our listenership to Celtics Beat, we negotiated with Bombfell to get a $25 offer for our listeners. For $25 off your first purchase, visit bombfell.com/CelticsBeat. That's bombfell.com/CelticsBeat. BOMBFELL.com. And the Celtics Beat URL, Bombfell, open and close. Fantasy football fans, football is back, which means FanDuel is back. Fantasy football for everyday fans. New contests starting every week, no busted seasons. Sign up today. Go to FanDuel.com, click the Join Now button, and use my code CelticsBeat. That is CelticsBeat, all one word. Week 3 of the NFL season, and after a bust with a hometown team in Week 1, I'll play homer again with the Texans in town, 1 o'clock today. Tom Brady returned to form last week with a virtuoso Tom Brady performance against the New Orleans Saints. So while he hasn't had some of his best career performances against the Texans, including last year's playoffs, but not really his fault, Michael Floyd's and Stonehands, they are now nowhere in sight. So I'm going to be willing to wager that he'll get things rolling again today at 1 p.m. with our man Ian Eagle on the call. Over 2.5 million players have won a cash prize playing fantasy sports on FanDuel. Something for everyone. Lots of contests to choose from, starting at just $1. Just pick a contest, choose your team, and watch your score real time. Try FanDuel for free with no deposit required. Visit FanDuel.com to claim your free contest and play for a share of $10,000. Just sign up using promo code CelticsBeat. That's FanDuel.com, promo code CelticsBeat. Void where prohibited. Let me do a little rundown of the Raptors offseason. I'm actually doing this on loose leaf. Wow, you're tired. I'm tired. There was a tongue twister. I actually did this on loose leaf paper. There's my age in me. I should, spend the night on a basketballreference.com or something. But they re-signed Kyle Lowry and Serge Ibaka at shorter-term deals. I know Lowry, most of his money is up front, so they're big re-signings that did cost a lot of money. At least they still have a little flexibility if, as you alluded to, they do want to, quote-unquote, blow things up. We like that.
And they got the Maple Leafs money. They got the Toronto Maple Leafs money backing them up. That always helps.
Oh, what does that mean?
Well, that means their ownership owns the Toronto Maple Leafs and owns the Toronto Raptors. So, the money's not an issue.
Okay, all right. Let me just get down to the rest of the offseason. They signed C.J. Miles, who's been around the league. He had a pretty solid season last year for the Pacers. They traded a few rotation players that I know of. Corey Joseph, he's always had some big shots against the Celtics. I know on 2 occasions, I think last year, and then I think 2 years ago, the second game of the year, he had a couple of shots at the end of a shot clock that were the difference in that game. He's always been an issue with the Celtics. I don't know what's always been the case against him and the rest of the league. And DeMarre Carroll, too, but I don't think that's too much of an issue, I know, for Toronto's end. Patrick Patterson, who came over on a trade a few years ago, the infamous Rudy Gay trade, which pretty much started this run for Toronto. He's been, pretty solid for them. He's played a role off the bench for about, I don't know, how long has he been there now? 3-4 years? Or was there? Excuse me. But he was, yeah. And then P.J. Tucker picked up at the deadline last year, was there now, looking back on it for a cup of coffee. The Raptors have flexibility in that they can still kind of take a run at it this year with this team, and I guess that sort of does make sense because I like to think that the East this year is probably been as murky as it's ever been since maybe the back end of the Pistons years, because you don't have that Celtics team with Garnett that was, they were clearly at the top of the league, and this is the one year where I know LeBron's been in the finals ever since that Celtics team with Garnett, but this is the one year where you could say, I could see LeBron not getting out of the East this year. So I guess it's not even crazy to even suggest Raptors. I had the, Michael Lee for Washington here last week. It's not crazy to suggest you see some goofy team like this. Take advantage of worst-case scenarios playing out for Cleveland, worst-case scenarios playing out for the Celtics.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying with that.
Start laughing. Sorry about that.
That was that was the exact same scenario as last year, as the 2016-17 season. The Celtics win the conference with 53 wins. That was a ripe season for the Raps to grab the number 1 seed. And given Kyle Lowry was hurt for a part of the season, but that's why I can't bank on the Raps grabbing the number 1 seed. They've dropped off. They went 56 wins 2 years ago, down to 51 last year. And you mentioned the roster. They gave away Corey Joseph, and they gave away DeMarre Carroll and P.J. Tucker left because they signed a couple. They dealt away DeMarre Carroll with a draft pick because they wanted to get rid of him. They had to deal those guys. Corey Joseph doesn't just play well against Celtics; he plays well against everybody. He's a rock solid backup point guard in this league. He's a very, very solid player and saved a lot of games for the Toronto Raptors over the years. They gave away those guys because they have some contracts in DeMar Carroll and Jonas Valanciunas that eats up so much of their payroll. They had to become lose those guys, including Patrick Patterson, to become a little more top heavy. They've got no choice with the way the contracts have gone. So they're not deep. So I can't really trust them to go and win 55 games. It's going to be a struggle. It was murky last year, Larry. That's what it comes down to. And 1 through 15, this team isn't better. This team is very, very solid. 1 through 8, CJ Miles is the perfect player. If they are going to move the basketball, the guy is makes shots. You move it around to him. He's a vet, as you said. He's over 30 and continuously hits. If I'm not mistaken, around 40% of his threes. He's perfect.
Shooter, yeah,
he's a perfect catch and shoot guy. But they're top heavy. They were deeper last year. Last year was the year, I think, to steal that 1 seed. Because if they're going to win, if they're going to beat the Cavs, or the Celtics for that matter, they should get that home court advantage.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish on your point.
Go ahead. No,
I was going to ask, what do you think? Because I've been asking almost everyone. Last year, a Celtics team with like a 2.9 point differential, won 53 games and got the 1 seed. I actually think it may even be less to get a 1 seed this year. I want to say the Pistons in like 03 won 49 and got a 1 seed. What do you think will take to get the 1 seed this year in the East?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I feel like LeBron wants that MVP. He hasn't had it for a couple of years. That's un-LeBron like. He won 4 in 5 years and hasn't won it the last few. It's time for a LeBron renaissance. So I think he'll. I don't know, man. That guy knows his body so well. Even if it's year 15, the East just has so many teams that if LeBron shows up for 25 minutes a game, they should win. At the bottom of the conference, my new hometown Hawks, the Bulls, the Pacers, the Sixers, Nets, Magic. Yeah, the Sixers are going to be okay, but there's basically half the conference.
Teams like Atlanta are going to be rough.
Yeah, Atlanta for sure. Yeah, that's my hometown, my new hometown.
Okay, right. Yeah, Turner. Sorry about that.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah, so there's going to be. You're right. There is probably going to be some serious parity, but a couple of those teams, the Cavs and the Celtics, if they play their ball for 35 minutes a night, they should win. They should separate themselves and not be anywhere near the 500 mark. And, the Raps and Wizards, I think, are in that category. So because the rest of the Eastern Conference got weaker, that just makes the rest of the Eastern Conference stronger. So probably 55. I think if the Cavs want to win 55, they obviously can do it. They added depth, which will help. Adding Jay Crowder will definitely help their defense, and that's what lost them a ton of games. I think they were ranked 21st in defense last year.
The second half of the year, they were, I think, like 29th in defense after like March 1st or something like that. Yeah.
But they didn't want to do it. Well, Jay Crowder will obviously help big time in that regard. They're going to have some problems at the point guard spot because if Isaiah Thomas isn't healthy, especially, his backup is, the aging Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose, yeah. Yep, sorry.
And behind him is the even more aging Jose Calderon. So that's some serious issues there. But that being said, again, just watching this Eastern Conference, the Sixers can make the playoffs, but that's only because the rest of the East is so weak. So, you walk into an arena on a Tuesday night if you're the Cavs, and you should basically beat half the teams. The Cavs, Raps, Wizards, Celtics, and you got to throw the Milwaukee
Bucks. No, I'm pretty bullish on them, and I'm bullish on them for the same reason I'm pretty bullish on Washington. I think those teams actually have some continuity, and the Raptors technically have that very continuity as well. But as you've mentioned now numerous times throughout this interview, they really just don't take advantage to put that chemistry to use, particularly offensively.
Yes, and I wonder when it's going to implode, or if it will implode. as Doc Rivers, let's get back to the Celtics, has said it in Clipperland, each team has a window. It's just how long can you keep on going back to the same well? It's the question I have with the Raps. But I do believe in DeMar DeRozan's sort of evolution of his game. You saw him in the postseason last year, get that ball sort of up top, a little bit inside the free throw or at 3-point line, I should say. A double comes because DeMar is so capable of getting to the rim and finishing or getting fouled. And he's been moving the ball more than he's ever moved it in his career. So if that happens, if he really wants to evolve his game, and DeMar DeRozan has proven everyone in this world wrong since he was drafted at USC, out of USC year after year after year after year, he's been getting better. If he's getting better, passing the ball and moving the ball, and that becomes contagious, then it's time to believe. The worrisome part is, again, it's not a very deep team. That to me is the worrisome part. Over 82 games, we're not talking about the postseason here. That can hurt. Corey Joseph was a rock. Patrick Patterson did his job very well. PJ Tucker, was that spark defensively. And DeMar Carroll was not himself after they signed him in 2015 at all. But he was a body that they could play. And so they believe in guys like Norman Powell to step up and DeLon Wright to step up. And Pascal Siakam and Jakob Poeltl. They've got the names, that a lot of fans around the league don't know. But they're expecting some big things out of those guys. And at least a couple of them will definitely show up. But I just wonder, 82 games. It's tough, man. It's a tough sport to show up night in and night out. It takes some years to really develop that skill of being ready when your number's called, every second day.
Yeah, well, it certainly helps, too, that the league and the schedule, as we know, has been spread out this year. You're getting back to work a lot earlier. To wind this down, Tas, and we're here with Tas Melas of the Starters on NBA TV, I want to get specifically into that Celtics matchup, Raptors matchup, because that has been Brad Stevens' Achilles heel ever since he's been in Boston. Now, Toronto is always outside of last year, but even last year, I believe the Raptors got him 3 times. It's always been just a bad matchup for Boston. And I want to say the primary reason, especially even last year, and going back to 2 years ago, is the Raptors really took advantage of pick and rolls and getting Isaiah. I mean, just 1-5 pick and rolls, getting Isaiah in there, or any type of pick and rolls. Matching them up end of games, 1-2 pick and rolls. They really exploited Isaiah defensively. Is Boston, now while both me and you, and as we have pointed out, many, many astute basketball minds, in fact, if you are an astute basketball mind, you have accepted that the Celtics are almost likely going to get off to a slow start. But nonetheless, with this new roster that the Celtics have, is this more a team that is more apt to beat Toronto with what they have compared to what they had last few years?
I think so. I think if you can call Kyrie Irving an upgrade at the 1 spot, I think he is that, which is defensively I'm talking about, which is crazy to say, but I think frankly just because he has got probably 6 inches on Isaiah Thomas, that simply put that helps. He's not a great defender whatsoever, but I think again he has the capability of becoming an average defender, average to slightly below average, which is more than Isaiah Thomas could do. Also, Kyrie Irving's not going to have to carry the load like Isaiah Thomas did offensively, so that's just going to help him defensively. And we didn't mention a guy like Aaron Baines, and I know they're most likely going to start Marcus Morris at the 4 and Al Horford at the 5. And whether
I'm going to jump in. I've been hearing a few words that they actually may start games with Baines. They may go with that bigger lineup. As much as I disagree with it, time for another show. But to point out, there is an outside chance they could have Baines in the starting lineup, so that way Horford is not guarding centers at the beginning of the game. Nonetheless, it's already in there. Let's go back to your point.
That's exactly it. That's why I mentioned him, because he is a better Amir Johnson. I think that's clear. Amir Johnson's had his day, and he was a part of the Toronto Raptors.
He had his day in Toronto.
Yeah, it was fantastic. He was a garbage man, dropping in those dinkers and dumpers, working hard. He was a garbage man, but he was playing out of position for the Celtics. He had to deal with centers, and eventually went to the bench in the postseason. But as we were talking about with the Raptors and how you sort of have to get guys involved throughout an 82-game season and just eat up some minutes for Al Horford and not force him to play fives all the time and just get him some rest. That's where Aaron Baines comes in. He's a guy who's sort of been unheralded the last couple of years, but he's a very skilled offensive player. And, and he is a little bit slow of foot for the modern NBA. But that being said, he's a tough-nosed player like Amir Johnson, a little bit more skilled offensively than Amir Johnson, younger than Amir Johnson. I believe he's going to be a big part of the rotation. When you look at the Celtics sort of Achilles heel, the front court looks a little bit. It's just you don't really have concrete guy behind Al Horford, especially these last couple of years. I mean, who's going to step up and really eat up a lot of minutes? Well, Marcus Morris, I think, can be that guy. Even though he's sort of a 3-4, and Aaron Baines can definitely be that guy. So they have a little bit more. Even if you lose Jay Crowder and you lose Avery Bradley, Marcus Smart has to step up, and those other guys that I mentioned, I think, will compensate defensively against a Raps team. But maybe we've got a reincarnation of the Raptors. Maybe we've got a Jack Armstrong vision of the Raptors where they come out and they swing the ball around. Now you're getting me back into my Raptors fandom, Larry. I sound like a Raptors homer.
Good. No, I'll get you on this. I'm jumping in and interrupting you right away. We have been long overdue for a Raptors-Celtics playoff series, so I'm putting
That's true.
Right. It's been the Buffalo Bills 49ers Super Bowl that we never got in the early 90s. I know you're not an NFL guy, but that's a throwback to Spurman reference.
I grew up outside of Toronto, and I grew up watching those Bills teams.
We never got Bills-Niners, and we never got Raptors-Celtics. But if we get it in the fantasy world, and I'm going to tell you, make a prediction for May of 2018 now if that series did happen, no matter what round of the playoffs that we're in.
You love the predictions. Oh. You love them.
Get a hot take from you and just get out of here. Just like the Twitter
Celtics in 7.
Hot take and get him out of here, as promised. There it was. Tas Melas, host of The Starters on NBA TV. Follow the man on Twitter at Tas Melas, TasMelas. All right, we went over time a little bit, so let's rush to get this one in. This show was presented by FanDuel and Bombfell. Use our Celtics Beat promo code, all one word, Celtics Beat, to support this production. Bombfell.com/Celtics Beat. Music for Celtics Beat was presented by Chuck Dietz and Steph DeBrazzo. Graphic designer Scott Dillon, the founder of the network, Nick Gelso. This is Larry A. Trussell, the executive producer and host, signing off for episode number 229 of Celtics Beat, powered by CLNS Media.